Welcome to another episode of Partner Talk, where we dive into the latest success stories and innovations from our partners. And we have a very special guest today, Brendan Kearney from NeoDyne. Brendan, welcome. Welcome to the show.
Alexandra, thanks. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Sure. Can you give us a little bit information about your company, what you're doing, where you're based, and really why you're here today at Enable?
So NeoDyne, we're an industrial automation and electrical engineering company based out of Cork in Ireland. We've a presence in the UK, we've a presence in the US, and we're delivering projects and services globally. What we do, we've three distinct business units. My role is within the system integration and digital manufacturing unit. We have a team delivering projects in the energy side, and we also have a transmission and distribution team. While we do have three separate strings to our bow, there's a lot of collaboration and cross-functional teams in delivering projects and services together. Within the system integration group, the AVEVA partnership is part of my remit. So we're an endorsed partner. That means that we've proven our capability within system platform, model-driven MES, and our latest accreditation is becoming an endorsed partner for PI. So
for the AVEVA PI system?
Yes. Yeah, okay. So in essence, within the SI group, we deliver everything from the instrument up to the cloud, always through the PLC, SCADA, HMI, the network configuration, the cybersecurity, managing data, be that either on-prem or in the cloud, providing dashboards, insights for managers, shift supervisors, and enterprise-wide information available to the customer.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yes, that is a lot to get through. But we're on the go since 1998. During that time, we've grown our capability. We've realised the value of strong relationships with the vendors and with the distributor channels. And I think AVEVA and Wonderware, as it was back then, have been with us every step of the way.
Now that we're here at Enable in Berlin, what are you hoping to gain from this event? And can you share what you've seen so far? I know it's only day one, but you were here yesterday in day zero. So anything you can share with us?
Yeah, I think as a system integrator, Enable's it's a special event in that it gives you the insight into the product, it gives you the insight into the roadmap, the plans, where AVEVA are looking, where the retention is focused. But it gives you a bit more than that. It allows you to get under the hood, it allows you to understand the product with the labs. There's the real opportunity for speaking to the product experts, speaking to the product managers and understanding the technical challenges and getting your hands on the product. That's, as an engineer, that's what we want to do. It also allows us to, it presents you with the opportunity for collaboration, both with AVEVA and also, sharing ideas with your peers, sharing opportunities, building relationships. And I think the way that Enable is structured, it facilitates all of those networking opportunities plus the hands-on technical knowledge.
Yeah, I've heard that what you're just sharing with other partners that we talked to yesterday, they one of the things they said about Enable is they really like that it's not so big like an AVEVA world, where you're really having that opportunity to truly network and collaborate, again, not only with AVEVA product experts, but with your peers.
Absolutely. I think what it gives you is the opportunity to have meaningful conversations, and where you can do a deep dive rather than, in a larger event, sometimes you nearly get swallowed up by the scale. Yeah. But here it is more focused on product, and it is more, it's like an engineer's event.
Yeah. Is this your first Enable event?
No, it was in Barcelona last year. Again, that was very valuable. It seems that Berlin is bigger again. There seems to be more SIs. Yeah. There seems to be more on the table. I think AVEVA they've really focused in on what their product set is, what it's going to be, where they're going. how they're encountering some of the challenges that are out there. And yeah, we're pretty excited to be here.
So, Brendan, how has your partnership with AVEVA created value for your business? Can you give us a little bit history on that?
Yeah, I guess when I joined NeoDyne as a junior engineer over 20 years ago, my initial project would have been a PLC and an in-touch SCADA. And over time, we've developed our capability with the AVEVA product portfolio. But having the Endorsed partnership, having the stamp of approval, it lends a bit of extra credibility. You know, you can sit down with a customer, you can work with them, understand their problems, present them with the solution. And the fact that it has the Endorsed SI badge to go with it, it lends a bit of extra weight, it helps with the sales effort. What we've also found, and you know, we're a firm believer that a successful project, if you're to deliver a successful project, you need collaboration between your integrator, your vendor, your distributor, and your customer. Within that quadrant, we think that we have an excellent relationship with AVEVA. The support that we receive, you know, identifying opportunities, working through the solution, being able to lean on the product experts, being able to have a conversation with somebody who can, you know, offer some guidance, who can assist, that's invaluable to us.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to say it's recognized by the customer that they do appreciate that they're speaking with a partner who has the support of the vendor.
Right. And you have been certified, trained, and you're
We have.
an expert in your solutions.
Yeah, like, you know, we've invested heavily over the years in training. We've got engineers certified, you know, across if you think back, the AVEVA Historian, InTouch, System Platform, Model-Driven MES, PI. So we have a broad range of skill set within the organisation, you know, and that helps us to, I suppose, that helps us to both identify and deliver the solutions that work for the customer.
Okay. And based on all of these years of experience with AVEVA solutions and delivering success to the customers, can you share any particular project that you are proud of recently or throughout the years, over the years?
I guess the project that, well, from a personal perspective, the projects that I would be proud of are where you've managed to deliver a successful capital project, but you maintain the relationship with the customer over years and you continue to add to their estate, you continue to provide value to, you know, to improve their process. I'm thinking in particular about a food and beverage company in Cork where maybe 15 years ago we came to site, they had 4 distinct siloed business units in their plant. They had islands of automation scattered everywhere. They didn't really have a structured plant model for their automation. They didn't have, you know, the data gathered in disparate locations across site. And you know what we did, and it was System Platform was the rock that all of this was built on. We cleansed their data, we collected their data, we brought everything together. We brought in the AVEVA Historian, we started building the dashboards on top. We allowed the plant operators to have a better understanding of what was happening in their plant. Once we'd established that, then we were able to work on, you know, process improvements. We've done an awful lot of work with them on energy recovery, on, you know, water, air, gas, electricity, steam, all of those, on making them empowered to I suppose, run a more efficient plant, to achieve savings, be that on steam load or cutting back in their bills. That's one part of it. That's the sustainable side. But we've also helped them, you know, on running their plants, on measuring OEE, on measuring quality, on removing paper from the plant floor. You know, all of that has helped to make the plant more efficient.
So, Brendan, everybody's talking about AI right now. What advice can you give to your customers who are just beginning on their AI journey?
I think what's very important for people is to just take a step back, try to understand, okay, what are their business objectives? What are they looking to achieve? Once they've those established, start small. Start with a pilot project. Don't go all in immediately. And then once you start to build up the capability, once you start to understand what benefits this is bringing you, you can go from there. I think what we're certainly seeing in the industry is an appetite to invest. But I think you have to temper that with investing in the right products, with investing in the right technology, and with the goal in mind of what you want to achieve.
What can you take back to your customers after being here at AVEVA Enable?
What I have seen is AVEVA are demonstrating an ability to listen to the customers, to the integrator community. When you look at the products and where they're going and how they're considering something like the UNS and the work that John Krajewski and the team are doing there, I think it has shown a willingness to adapt and to nudge based on the correct information, based on where AVEVA think this will take them. I think the product set that AVEVA have, the roadmap that they have ahead of them, the willingness to, what AVEVA did to prove it. The work going in behind the scenes to refine the products, to make them more agile, more adaptable. I think that's very promising what AVEVA are doing.
Okay, well, great. And for those people who didn't have the opportunity to attend this year's Enable, would you recommend that they attend next year?
Oh, absolutely. It's an engineer's event. It's designed for people who want to get their hands on the product. I think it's a superb opportunity. If
you had to describe AVEVA Enable in one word.
Well, one word that comes to mind over again, and I think I heard Casper say it in San Francisco, he mentioned radical collaboration. It doesn't have to be radical, but collaboration. Working with your vendor, working with your customer. But equally as important, collaborating with your peers. The opportunity for delivering projects successfully as a team. I think there's huge opportunities there.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to another episode of PartnerTalk soon.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.